In a small kingdom in what is now Nepal, a prince was born more than 2,500 years ago. His name was Siddhartha Gautama. His father, the king, wanted to protect his son from all the difficulties of life. He built beautiful palaces for Siddhartha, filled with every comfort and pleasure imaginable. The prince was surrounded by music, wonderful food, and lovely gardens. He had a loving wife and a beautiful son. He knew only happiness and luxury, and his father hoped he would never see the world's pain. The king believed that if Siddhartha never witnessed suffering, he would grow up to be a great and powerful ruler, just like him, and never feel the need to seek a different kind of life. But even within the palace walls, a deep curiosity grew in Siddhartha's heart. He wanted to see the world beyond the gates, the world where ordinary people lived their lives. He asked his chariot driver, Chana, to take him outside. On these journeys, he saw things that his father had hidden from him. He saw an old man, bent with age, struggling to walk. This was the first time Siddhartha had ever seen old age. He understood that everyone, including himself, would one day grow old. This sight planted a seed of deep inquiry within him, a question about the nature of our existence and the inevitability of change. On another trip outside the palace, Siddhartha saw a person who was very sick, lying by the side of the road and crying out in pain. This was his first encounter with illness. He realized that the body is fragile and that sickness can come to anyone, rich or poor, prince or commoner. The experience deepened his understanding that life contains unavoidable hardship. On a third journey, he saw a funeral procession. He saw people weeping for someone who had died. For the first time, he truly understood death. He realized that life is not permanent and that everyone he loved, and he himself, would one day pass away. These three sights, old age, sickness, and death, are known as the three heavenly messengers. These experiences changed Siddhartha forever. The pleasures of the palace no longer brought him joy. He could not stop thinking about the suffering he had seen. On a final trip, he saw a wandering ascetic, a holy man with a shaved head and a simple robe, who looked calm and peaceful, even with nothing. This man had chosen to leave his home to find the cause of suffering and the way to end it. Siddhartha saw a path forward. He decided that he too must leave his life of comfort. He quietly left the palace one night, leaving behind his title, his family, and his wealth, to begin his search for the truth that could liberate all beings from suffering. After leaving the palace, Siddhartha spent 6 years as a wandering ascetic. He studied with the wisest teachers and practiced extreme forms of self-denial, believing that by punishing his body, he could free his mind. He fasted until he was painfully thin, so much so that he could feel his backbone through his stomach. Yet he found that this path did not lead to true understanding or peace. It only weakened his body and clouded his mind. He realized that neither a life of extreme luxury nor a life of extreme hardship was the way. The true path must lie somewhere in the middle, a path of moderation that he called the middle way. One day, sitting under a large Bodhi tree, he decided he would not get up until he had found the answers he was looking for. He sat in deep meditation, looking into his own mind and into the nature of life itself. He remembered all of his past lives and saw the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth that all beings go through. He saw how our actions, our karma, lead us from one life to the next, often filled with suffering. As the morning star rose in the sky, a profound understanding dawned within him. He had awakened. At that moment, Siddhartha Gautama became the Buddha, which means the awakened one. He was not a god, but a human being who had woken up to the true nature of reality. The first teaching the Buddha gave after his enlightenment was about the Four Noble Truths. These are the very foundation of all his teachings, like the four strong legs of a table. The first noble truth is the truth of suffering, or dukkha. The Buddha taught that life inevitably contains suffering. This includes the obvious suffering of old age, sickness, and death, but also the more subtle suffering of not getting what we want, of losing what we love, and the general feeling of dissatisfaction that we all experience. It is not a pessimistic view. but a realistic one, like a doctor diagnosing an illness before offering a cure. The second noble truth is the truth of the origin of suffering. The Buddha taught that our suffering comes from our own minds. It arises from our craving, our thirst, our desire for things to be different than they are. We crave pleasant experiences. We crave for things to stay the same, and we have aversion to unpleasant experiences. This constant wanting and pushing away is what fuels our unhappiness. It is like constantly being thirsty and drinking salt water. It only makes the thirst worse. The root of this craving is our ignorance of the true nature of reality. We believe in a permanent, separate self, and this belief creates all our desires and fears. The third noble truth is the truth of the cessation of suffering. This is the good news the Buddha shared with the world. He taught that it is possible to end our suffering. If we can remove the cause of suffering, our craving and ignorance, then the suffering itself will cease. This state of being free from suffering is called nirvana. It is a state of profound peace, joy, and liberation. It is not a place you go to after you die, but a state of mind you can experience right here, right now. It is like a fire going out when it runs out of fuel. When the fuel of craving is gone, the fire of suffering is extinguished. The fourth noble truth is the truth of the path that leads to the end of suffering. The Buddha did not just diagnose the problem and its cause, he gave a clear, practical prescription for the cure. This prescription is the Noble Eightfold Path. It is not a set of rules to follow blindly, but a way of living to be cultivated. It is called a path because it is a journey we walk, step by step, with our own effort and awareness. The path is divided into three main sections: wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. Each part of the path supports and strengthens the others, creating a holistic way of life that leads to awakening. The first part of the path is right understanding and right thought, which together form the foundation of wisdom. Right understanding means seeing the world as it truly is, understanding the Four Noble Truths and the nature of impermanence. It is about clearing away our confusion and delusions. Right thought means cultivating thoughts of love, kindness, and non-harming, while letting go of thoughts of greed, hatred, and cruelty. Our thoughts are like seeds. If we plant wholesome seeds, we will harvest wholesome fruits. This part of the path helps us to see clearly and to think with a kind heart. The next part of the path is ethical conduct, which includes right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Right speech means speaking truthfully and kindly, avoiding lies, gossip, harsh words, and idle chatter. Our words have the power to heal or to harm. Right action means acting in ways that do not cause harm to ourselves or others, such as refraining from killing, stealing, or engaging in sexual misconduct. Right livelihood means earning a living in a way that is honest and does not harm other beings, such as avoiding work that involves selling weapons or intoxicants. This moral foundation provides the stability needed for our mind to become calm and focused. The final part of the path is mental discipline, which is composed of right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Right effort is the gentle but persistent energy we apply to our practice, encouraging wholesome states of mind and discouraging unwholesome ones. Right mindfulness is the heart of the practice. It is the energy of being aware and present in each moment, without judgment. We pay attention to our body, our feelings, our thoughts, and the world around us. Right concentration is the ability to focus the mind on a single object, leading to states of deep calm and insight. Together, these three practices train our minds, freeing them from distraction and leading us to the peace of enlightenment. The Buddha taught that to truly understand our suffering and the path to freedom, we must see reality clearly, just as it is, without the filters of our hopes and fears. He pointed out three fundamental characteristics of all existence, known as the three marks of existence. These are not beliefs to be accepted on faith, but truths to be observed and realized through our own direct experience, especially through the practice of mindfulness and meditation. Understanding them helps us to let go of our attachments and find a deep sense of peace in the midst of life's constant changes. These are impermanence, or anicca, suffering or dissatisfaction, called dukkha, and no self, or anatta. The first mark is impermanence or anicca. This means that everything is in a constant state of change. Nothing stays the same for even a moment. Our bodies are changing, our thoughts and feelings are changing, the seasons are changing, and even mountains are slowly changing over time. Think of a river. It is always flowing, so you can never step into the same river twice. Life is just like that river. When we forget this truth, we suffer. We try to hold on to pleasant moments, wanting them to last forever. We grieve when things change, or when we lose something we love. But when we truly accept impermanence, we can learn to appreciate each moment as it is, without clinging. The second mark is suffering or dissatisfaction, dukkha. We have already met this truth in the Four Noble Truths. It points to the fact that because everything is impermanent, our attachment to things will inevitably lead to suffering. When we cling to things that are destined to change, we create our own stress and sorrow. For example, we might be attached to our youth and health, but since they are impermanent, we will suffer when we experience old age and sickness. This dissatisfaction is not just about big pains. It's also the subtle background feeling of unease that comes from resisting the natural flow of life. Understanding dukkha is not about being pessimistic. It is about understanding the source of our discontent so we can resolve it. The third, and perhaps most profound mark is no self, or anatta. The Buddha taught that there is no permanent, unchanging, separate self or soul that exists independently. What we call I or me is actually a combination of ever-changing physical and mental components. Our body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. These parts are always flowing and interacting with everything else in the universe. Think of a flower. A flower is made of non-flower elements: sunshine, rain, soil, and air. Without these things, the flower cannot exist. In the same way, we are made of non-us elements. Understanding anatta helps us to let go of our ego and our selfishness, leading to great compassion and connection with all beings. After the Buddha passed away, his teachings were preserved and passed down through generations of monks and nuns. Over many centuries, as Buddhism spread to different lands and cultures, different interpretations and practices emerged. This led to the development of several schools or branches of Buddhism. The three main branches that are widely practiced today are Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. Each of these vehicles or carries the core teachings of the Buddha, such as the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. But they emphasize different aspects of the practice and have their own unique texts and methods. Theravada, which means the way of the elders, is the oldest surviving school of Buddhism. It is most common in countries like Sri Lanka, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar. Theravada Buddhism holds the Pali Canon, the earliest collection of the Buddha's discourses, as its most sacred text. The ideal practitioner in the Theravada tradition is a worthy one who has followed the Buddha's teachings and attained nirvana, thereby freeing themselves from the cycle of rebirth. The focus is primarily on self-liberation through disciplined practice, meditation, and wisdom, following the original monastic path as closely as possible. Mahayana, which means the great vehicle, emerged several centuries after the Buddha's passing and is the largest branch of Buddhism today. It is prevalent in East Asia, including China, Japan, Korea, and Vietnam, as well as in parts of Tibet. The Mahayana tradition introduced new scriptures, called sutras, and expanded on the Buddha's teachings. The ideal figure in Mahayana is a bodhisattva is an enlightened being who, out of great compassion, postpones their own final nirvana in order to help all other sentient beings achieve enlightenment. This school places a strong emphasis on compassion, awe, and the idea that all beings have the potential to become a Buddha. Vajrayana, which means the diamond vehicle or thunderbolt vehicle, is often considered a branch of Mahayana Buddhism, though it has its own distinct methods. It is most prominent in Tibet, Bhutan, Mongolia, and parts of Japan. Vajrayana accepts the foundational teachings of both Theravada and Mahayana, but it also includes a unique and powerful set of practices designed to accelerate the path to enlightenment. These practices include advanced meditation techniques, visualizations, mantras, and rituals, which are passed down directly from a qualified teacher. The goal is to The Buddha's teachings offer a profound map of our existence, explaining where we are, how we got here, and how we can find our way to freedom. Three of the most important concepts on this map are karma, samsara, and nirvana. These ideas are interconnected and help us to understand the dynamic process of life and the ultimate goal of the spiritual path. They are not abstract philosophical concepts, but practical truths that we can observe in our own lives. Understanding them gives us the power to change our destiny and to cultivate a life of peace, joy, and meaning. Karma is a Sanskrit word that simply means action. It refers to our volitional actions, the things we do, say, and think with intention. The law of karma is the law of cause and effect. Every action we take plants a seed in our mind, and these seeds will eventually ripen and produce a corresponding result. Wholesome actions, motivated by kindness, generosity, and wisdom, will lead to happiness and favorable conditions. Unwholesome actions, motivated by greed, hatred, and ignorance, will lead to suffering and unfortunate circumstances. Karma is not a system of reward and punishment from an external judge. It is a natural law, like the law of gravity. We are the creators of our own experience. Samsara is the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, in which all unenlightened beings are trapped. It is a continuous loop fueled by our karma and our ignorance of the Four Noble Truths. Because of our cravings and aversions, we create karma, which propels us from one life to the next, experiencing suffering over and over again. Samsara is often depicted as a wheel, the wheel of life, constantly turning. It is not just about being reborn in a future life. We can experience the cycle of samsara in our daily lives, as we move from moments of happiness to moments of sadness, driven by our reactive patterns. The goal of the Buddhist path is to step off this wheel and find lasting freedom. Nirvana is the ultimate goal of Buddhism. The word literally means to extinguish or to blow out. It refers to the extinguishing of the fires of greed, hatred, and ignorance. When these fires are put out, the suffering they cause also ceases. Nirvana is the end of samsara, the liberation from the cycle of rebirth. It is a state of supreme peace, profound wisdom, and boundless compassion. It is important to understand that nirvana is not a heavenly realm or a place we go to, but a state of being that can be realized right here and now. It is the discovery of our true nature, which is already peaceful and free. It is the shore of safety after crossing the ocean of suffering. The Buddha's teachings are not meant to be just studied or believed in. They are meant to be practiced and lived. The path to awakening is a practical one that involves training our hearts and minds. The core practices of Buddhism are designed to help us cultivate wisdom, compassion, and inner peace in our daily lives. The three main pillars of this practice are meditation, mindfulness, and ethical living. These practices work together, supporting and strengthening one another. Ethical living provides a stable foundation for our mind. Meditation helps to calm and concentrate the mind, and mindfulness brings the fruits of our practice into every moment of our life. Meditation, or bhavana, is the formal practice of training the mind. There are many different meditation techniques, but two of the most common are calming meditation, or samatha, and insight meditation, or vipassana. In calming meditation, we focus our attention on a single object, such as the breath. Each time the mind wanders, we gently and patiently bring it back to the breath. This practice helps to develop concentration and inner calm, making the mind less scattered and more stable. Insight meditation involves observing our own experience, our bodily sensations, feelings, and thoughts with clear awareness. This practice helps us to see directly into the nature of reality, to understand impermanence, suffering, and no-self. Mindfulness, or sati, is the energy of being present and aware in each moment. While meditation is a formal practice we do while sitting on a cushion, mindfulness is a practice we can bring into every activity of our day. We can practice mindful walking, mindful eating, mindful dishwashing, and mindful listening. When we are mindful, we are fully present with what we are doing, not lost in thoughts about the past or worries about the future. For example, when drinking a cup of tea, we can be aware of the warmth of the cup, the aroma of the tea, and the taste. This simple act of paying attention can bring a sense of peace and joy to our ordinary activities and helps us to live more deeply. Ethical living, or sila, is the foundation of the entire path. It involves living in a way that brings happiness to ourselves and others and avoids causing harm. This is expressed through the 5 precepts, which are trainings rather than commandments. The 5 basic precepts are to refrain from killing living beings, to refrain from taking what is not given, to refrain from sexual misconduct, to refrain from false speech, and to refrain from intoxicants that cloud the mind. By practicing these precepts, we protect ourselves and others. We create a life of integrity and kindness, which in turn creates the peaceful conditions necessary for our meditation and mindfulness practice to flourish. The Buddha's teachings, known as the Dharma, did not remain confined to the land of their origin. Like a great river flowing from a mountain spring, the Dharma spread out from India and nourished the cultures of many other lands across Asia and eventually the world. This journey was not one of conquest or force, but one of peaceful transmission. Monks, nuns, and lay practitioners traveled along ancient trade routes, carrying with them the precious gift of the Buddha's teachings on peace and wisdom. As Buddhism entered new cultures, it adapted and transformed, taking on new forms while always preserving its essential heart. One of the most important figures in the spread of Buddhism was the Indian Emperor Ashoka in the 3rd century BCE. After a bloody war, Ashoka was filled with remorse and converted to Buddhism. He dedicated the rest of his reign to ruling with compassion and non-violence. He sent Buddhist missionaries to many different countries, including Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. It was his son Mahinda who brought Buddhism to Sri Lanka, where the Theravada tradition has thrived for over 2,000 years. This early spread established deep roots for the Dharma far beyond the borders of India. The Dharma also traveled north and east from India, along the famous Silk Road. Merchants and monks carried scriptures and ideas into Central Asia, China, and beyond. Buddhism arrived in China around the 1st century CE. There, it blended with existing Chinese philosophies like Taoism and Confucianism, giving rise to new and unique schools of thought, such as Chan, which later became Zen in Japan. From China, Buddhism then spread to Korea and Japan, where it had a profound influence on art, literature, and culture. Each culture interpreted the teachings through its own lens, creating a rich and diverse tapestry of Buddhist traditions. In the 7th century CE, Buddhism made its way over the high Himalayas into Tibet. This led to the development of Tibetan Buddhism, or Vajrayana. This tradition combined the teachings of Indian masters with the local shamanic traditions of Tibet, creating a vibrant and powerful form of practice. Over the centuries, Buddhism became the heart of Tibetan culture. In more recent times, beginning in the 19th and 20th centuries, teachers from all the major Buddhist traditions have traveled to the West, sharing the Dharma with new audiences in Europe, the Americas, and Australia. The river of the Dharma continues to flow, offering its waters of peace and understanding to all who are thirsty. At the very heart of all the Buddha's teachings, you will find 2 shining jewels: compassion, or karuna, and loving kindness, or metta. These are not just nice ideas, they are essential qualities to be cultivated through our practice. They are the natural expression of a mind that has begun to awaken. Wisdom and compassion are like the 2 wings of a bird. We need both to fly. Wisdom helps us to see the interconnectedness of all life, and this understanding naturally gives rise to compassion, the wish for all beings to be free from suffering. The journey of enlightenment is not just for our own benefit, but for the benefit of everyone. Compassion, or karuna, is the ability to feel the suffering of others as if it were our own, and the deep wish to alleviate that suffering. It arises from the understanding that all beings, just like us, want to be happy and do not want to suffer. When we see another person in pain, whether it is a friend or a stranger, the compassionate heart does not turn away. It opens up and responds with care and a desire to help. The Buddha's entire life after his enlightenment was an expression of great compassion. He spent 45 years walking from village to village, teaching the path to liberation to anyone who would listen. simply to help them end their suffering. Loving kindness, or metta, is the wish for all beings to be happy and well. It is an unconditional, universal love that is not based on whether we like someone or not. It is a warm, gentle feeling that we can cultivate in our hearts through practices like metta meditation. In this practice, we begin by offering wishes for our own well-being, saying things like, "May I be happy, may I be peaceful." Then, we gradually extend these wishes to others, to our loved ones, to neutral people, to difficult people, and finally, to all living beings everywhere, without exception. This practice helps to soften our hearts, dissolve our anger and resentment, and connect us with others. The teachings of the Buddha continue to resonate deeply in our modern world, perhaps now more than ever. In a time of great speed, distraction, and conflict, the path of mindfulness, wisdom, and compassion offers a way to find peace within ourselves and to create a more peaceful world. The simple practice of stopping, breathing, and coming back to the present moment can be a powerful antidote to the stress and anxiety of our daily lives. The core message of Buddhism is timeless. Suffering is a part of life, but we all have the capacity within us to understand its causes and to cultivate the inner resources of peace, joy, and freedom for the benefit of ourselves and all beings.